Hello everybody, my name is Rachel. Welcome to my channel, Colonati. Today I want to talk to you quickly about No Man's Land by A.J. Fitzwater. This is one of a couple of books by New Zealand or Australian authors that I picked up at Worldcon this year. It was Con Zealand. It was supposed to take place in Wellington, New Zealand, but unfortunately it had to go virtual instead. As part of Worldcon, I attended A.J. Fitzwater's reading. I didn't know anything about them or their work before showing up to listen to them read, and they did an amazing job. They read from this novella, or kind of short novel, which is their newest work, and I loved it immediately. I went out and bought a copy right away, and I was very impressed by this. I really enjoyed it. It is a fantasy novel set during World War II, and it is set in New Zealand. In fact, I think it's the first book I've ever read that's definitely set in New Zealand, and I loved that. This story follows a young woman named Dorothy, or T, when she joins the land service. She actually ends up replacing her twin brother Robbie as kind of a farmhand because all of the young men are away at war. The women are joining things like the land service to kind of step up and take their place. So when T arrives at the farm, she meets the other young women working there, including one named Izzy, as well as Grant, a man who works there. She's kind of immediately attracted to Izzy, and the story has a very sweet, kind of understated lesbian romance that I quite liked. And Grant is also a good friend of Izzy's, and both he and Izzy think that there's something special about T. She has a gift, or waiwaia, kind of like her brother has, but T doesn't know about that yet. So they kind of show her something about herself, this gift that she can embrace, and then together the three of them are going to save Robbie when he is away at war on a different continent. I loved it. I loved the feel of it, and it was written so well. I will pick up anything else by Fitzwater in the future just on the strength of the writing here. I loved the feel of the characters and their relationships. It was just really beautiful. The only things that kind of didn't work for me is, well, one is a spoiler, so I won't go into it too much, but there's basically an event in the novel where the characters have to travel thousands of miles very quickly, and I just didn't understand the explanation for that. It didn't quite make sense. I mean, there is magic involved, but I didn't understand what was going on. I thought it was a little bit of hand-waving. And then the epilogue, basically, which takes the story into more modern times, because originally it's set in the 1940s, and then it kind of jumps forward in the epilogue like 40, 50 years. And I didn't really think that that was necessary. I liked just the major story on its own. I liked where it ended, and I didn't necessarily need that epilogue. It kind of went off in a different direction. However, I do think that the epilogue and what you learn in that just solidifies this as a queer story. There are multiple queer characters, and that was really interesting, especially within the historical context and just the time period and the way that the characters thought, and how that fight to be who you are and to love who you want to love, that fight never really ends. It's ongoing, and every new generation has its own difficulties and its own fight, basically. So it wasn't perfect, especially because I just didn't quite like the way it veered off into the epilogue, but overall this was just a lovely story, and it was a beautiful blend of fantasy and Maori heritage and culture and the historical time period. I think I've said before, but I'm actually not a fan of World War II era fiction, and this is a completely different take on that era for me because of the setting and just the different viewpoint that the characters had. So I'm going to continue singing the praises of this book. I highly, highly recommend it. So I think that's everything I have to say about it, actually. I will be seeking out more of H.A. Fitzwater's work in the future. I know already that they have a collection of short stories about a pirate capybara, which is a hoot. So I may have to read that next. Anyway, let me know if you have read this story. I would love to hear from you and what you thought about it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back to talk to you again soon. And until then, bye.